Thursday night football is now behind us, and I'll just say this to start. It is so amazing to have football back, regardless of how the games end up. It's just always good to have our favorite game back. But as we shift our focus towards this weekend, towards Sunday, week 1, we want to get our fantasy teams off on the right foot. I have some last-minute waiver wire additions for you this weekend to either play this weekend or to stash for the long haul. But if you like sports podcasts, I'm telling you, this is the channel for you. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. We drop 4 videos a week, and all we ask for is that if you enjoyed any point, to support us on the road to the next big milestone. But without further ado, this is the Anomaly Podcast. Let's start off here at the running back position. My number 1 waiver wire addition this week is, of course, Tank Bigsby. Now, again, some of these might be obvious for you guys here that have kept up in the fantasy world, but for the casual leagues, it's week 1. Some of these guys might still be out there on the waivers. There were a couple of areas last year where Travis Etienne struggled in Jacksonville. Well, one was his health, but on the field, he struggled in the red zone, and that's where a lot of fantasy points come from, and that is the reason that Jacksonville went out and drafted the rookie out of Auburn in Tank Bigsby. We already know going into this offseason that head coach Doug Peterson wanted to create a committee in this backfield in Jacksonville. I mean, after all, it's what he's done his entire coaching career. So they went out, they drafted this guy out of Auburn, and again, he lives up to his name, Tank Bigsby. This guy is a tank on the field, and he's quite literally built like one. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have already said that they have plans to use him, and use him a lot in the red zone from day 1 of the year. He's been killing it in camp all season, in the joint practices, not in joint practices, and the questions have slowly gone from how much will he play to is there a chance he takes over this backfield in Jacksonville. That's how much he's impressed this offseason. He's rostered in 48% of Yahoo leagues, so if, again, for some reason, if he wasn't drafted in your leagues, go ahead and pick this guy up. You can start him from, well, I wouldn't start him week 1, but pretty early on in the year if he does become a viable option. Moving over to other running back pickups for the week, you see guys like Jaylen Warren, Ken Gainwell, Deion Jackson, Devin Singletary, and Evan Hall. In order from top to bottom on the left side of your screen, that is the order in which I would pick these players up, going from Jaylen Warren all the way down to Evan Hall. Now it is week 1, so again, some of these players might be super obvious. As you see Jaylen Warren and Ken Gainwell, they're owned in 49% of leagues in Yahoo. So it's like, in most leagues, they're not going to be there for you guys. But again, it's week 1. If these guys are still out there and you need a running back, please go pick one of those guys up. Jaylen Warren, he might even take over the running back, the backfield there in Pittsburgh, as he's now in like a Tony Pollard role, where it was the Tony Pollard and Zeke 2.0 basically with Najee Harris. Ken Gainwell, there's been reports all offseason that it's his backfield, then it's DeAndre Swift's backfield. There was even a period of time where they were saying Rashad Penny might win the backfield. So we don't really know who the running back is going to be in Philly. We know unless they play the Giants, where Boston Scott will play, Ken Gainwell might have a chance to overall be the number 1 running back in this run-heavy Philly offense. Deion Jackson, of course, Jonathan Taylor is going to be out for at least a month. Deion Jackson last year was pretty solid in the time he was the starter. He is now the starter, at least for the first month of the season here. So he's the starter there in Indy. You might want to go pick him up because it's going to be run-first offense there with Anthony Richardson. Same thing with Evan Hall there at the bottom of the list. He's only owned in 5% of leagues. If you don't believe in Deion Jackson, or let's say he goes down with an injury because he's not used to the workload, Evan Hall is a pretty good pickup. Devin Singletary, that's a guy that Houston brought in to lighten the load of Dameon Pierce this year. So if anything happens to Dameon Pierce, Devin Singletary is a pretty good pass-catching back, and he might play a lot late in games as Houston might be down a lot, and they might need to catch up through the air. Moving over to the receiver position, he's on the thumbnail. You knew he was going to be in this video. But Van Jefferson, go Gators. First off, I'll say that. But Sean McVay, he's already come out and he's ruled Cooper Kupp out for week 1. And he's also stated that he believes there's a chance Cooper Kupp may be placed on the IR, which would keep him out for at least a month. So Van Jefferson is safe to say he's the number 1 wide receiver and number 1 option in the passing game for this offense. And this is an offense that should be down a lot early in the season. So they're going to have to throw a lot. There's little to no competition there for targets. I guess unless you're worried about Tyler Higbee, Van Jefferson should skyrocket early on. And this is a wide receiver 3 to me with wide receiver 2 upside on a week-to-week basis. As of right now, he's only rostered in like 22% of Yahoo leagues, but I do expect that number to skyrocket in the coming days. So go out there, get Van Jefferson, as again, it's going to be hard to grab him as we go into the year. Moving over to other wide receiver pickups this week, we see guys like Romeo Doubs out of Green Bay. It's all a matter of who do you believe Jordan Love will prefer in this passing offense, as will it be Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, the rookie there, or Romeo Doubs? It all is a preference on who you think he will favor. If you go out there and take a chance on Romeo Doubs, hey, you might have a diamond in the rough here at the end of your bench, because he might overall be the favorite target of the new starting quarterback there in Green Bay. He's only rostered in 31% of leagues. KJ Osborne, there's no guarantee Jordan Addison is anything relevant in his first year. Nico Collins, now he is owned in 52% of these leagues. And just so you guys know, for these videos going forward all season, if they are over 50% or at 50%, I don't include them in the videos, as unless you're in a 4-man league, most of the good players should be picked up. Marvin Mims is an interesting one here, as he was a guy that was drafted last year out of Oklahoma, I believe, and he showed tons of promise out of the draft at least. It all just depended on where he landed. And this year, I mean, with the injuries to Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, and Courtland Sutton's not the most durable, Marvin Mims might go from kind of an unknown wide receiver to the general crowd to the number 1 here in Denver, as it's just due to health. He might be the only healthy receiver in this Denver locker room. And then Jonathan Mingo, as there's no guarantee there in Carolina that Adam Thielen or DJ Chark are a favorable option to Bryce Young. So Jonathan Mingo is a rookie there out of Ole Miss, I believe. He might come out and he might shock the world and be a viable option in year 1. Again, these are flyers, but that's what you get here in these waiver wire pickups. And then moving over here to maybe my favorite pickup of the week, it is Jake Ferguson, tight end there out of Dallas. I guess, well, he plays for Dallas, but in the lone preseason game that the starters played, at least on the offensive side of the ball for Dallas, Jake Ferguson had 3 receptions for 38 yards. It is safe to say that this offense plans to use him, and that is no shocker here to at least me, as whether if it was Jason Witten or Dalton Schultz for all those years. It always seems like Dak produces fantasy-relevant tight ends on a year-in and year-out basis, and they're usually a tight end 1, which means they finish as a top 12 guy. So Jake Ferguson, he's only rostered in 32% of leagues. We know he's going to get a lot of targets over the middle and in those intermediate routes, So this is a guy that, again, there's not a guaranteed volume there, but I do think he has a really, really good chance that this is a guy that's going undrafted in Yahoo leagues, but he can very well be a tight end 1 at the end of the year. So Jake Ferguson, just keep an eye out for him. But some other guys you can add are Jawan Johnson, Greg Dulcich, Gerald Everett. All of those guys are rostered in 40% or more of leagues. But again, I wanted to include them because it is week 1. Michael Mayer or Luke Musgrave are 2 rookies there for the Las Vegas and Green Bay. Green Bay, I mean, does Jordan Love want to favor the big body, younger tight end? That is a possibility. Michael Mayer is replacing Darren Waller there in Las Vegas. Jimmy Garoppolo loves his tight ends. Very real possibility that he could favor the rookie early on in 2023. You shouldn't need a quarterback early on, but in case you do, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Derek Carr, Bryce Young, and Sam Howell are all viable options. And that is now going to do it for today's video. Those are your waiver wire pickups for week 1. I will be back on Tuesday for another great week of podcast here on the channel. And again, we're on the road to 1K. If you enjoyed any point, please support us down below. We're on the road to 1,000 subs, as I've mentioned. It's just a big milestone here that I'm looking to hit. And let me know some waiver wire pickups down below that you're looking at in week 1. And without further ado, enjoy your weekend of football. I wish all of you guys the best success, unless you're playing me in fantasy this week. Hopefully you guys all start 1-0. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. Enjoy your weekend.